Okay, let's set up group policies on a 2008 server. Okay, group policies is used to configure computer and user settings on networks based on Active Directory services. So basically what we're going to do, we're going to set up a group policy on this Active Directory server, and then we're going to use some workstations, Windows Vista and Windows 7, to test the group policies and see that it works. Now, in order for you to set up a group policy, you first need to set up your server with the following. You would need to be a domain controller, and you need to set up Active Directory on the server as well, DNS as well, and DHCP service. Now you will get all this if you go into add a role. You go into the add a role, server roles, and as you can see, you just tick the boxes on what you need to set up. In this case, I have already set up Active Directory, file service, DHCP, DNS. So you set this up first on your server to prepare your server to set up GPOs or group policies. So let me close this off here. Minimize this. Okay, let's begin. In order to set up a group policy, first we need to set up some groups. So go into Active Directory user and computers, and groups in group policies are known as organizational units, OUs. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up, click on your domain, go into Active Directory user and computers, click on your domain. First we're going to set up two groups. We're going to set up a student group and a teachers group. If you highlight at the top here, create new organizational unit, and let's set up a teacher group. Teachers. Protect container from accidental deletion. Click OK. As you can see, the teacher group is here now. Let's set up another group, and we're going to call it student. Students. Click OK. Okay. Great. Let's hold on there a second. Let me check something. Okay, as you can see, the two new organizational units were created. You know it by this little icon on the folder. So that means it's an OU, organizational unit. Now what we need to do is set up some users for these groups. So let's set up a student user. Just highlight the student organizational unit. Click at the top here, create a new user in the user container, and create a user for student. Let's say it's student 1. I'm just creating a test student for us here. logon can be student 1. Click next and create a password for the student 1. Let's confirm your password here. Let's leave this never expires for now, but usually you can set your user to change the password at first logon. Click finish. Okay, so we have a student user set up in the student group. Let's set up a user for the teachers group. Let's create a user. Let's create a teacher user. Click next, click finish. The password does not meet. Okay, so let's make the password a little more complicated. Maybe the password is a little too easy. Let's try this again. Okay, alright, so we have a username and password here. Okay, so now that we set up the user in Active Directory users and computers, organizational units, and also two users, set up a student user and a teacher user. Okay, so now we can minimize the screen and we can go to Start Programs Administration Tools, Group Policy Management. Now in the Group Policy Management window, That's the screen is loading. Okay, now on the left you're going to see your organizational unit that you set up. Here we have student, here we have teachers. Okay, now we need to right click on the student and click create a group in the domain and link it here. This is the group's name. You can name it whatever you want. Let's name the student. Okay, click OK. If you click the drop down, you're going to see student was created, GPO. Do the same thing with the teachers. Highlight, right click teachers, click create a GPO in this domain, give it a name, okay, click OK, and here you have the teachers GPO set up as well. Okay, the next thing we need to do is to click on student, right click student, click on edit, come to this screen. This is the student, these are the policies on the student. Click on policies, you're going to see software policies. Software policies will affect certain software installations. There's not much policies on the software. You have Windows settings, where there are other policies, security policies and what have you, and you have administrative templates where you can control features in the control panel, desktop, network, shared folders, systems. All these can be controlled on the user's desktop to give them access or not give them access to certain areas on their desktop. So in this case, let's go to administrative templates, and for instance, if you click on control panel, you're going to see a whole bunch of policies, hide specified control panel items, force classic. If you go into display, you can set display settings, hide appearance, hide desktop, screensavers, password protect. So there's a whole host of policies that you can set for the user to prevent the user from doing certain things on this domain computer. So let's go back to policy here. Okay, great. Let's set up a policy on going to the desktop, and let's set up a couple items. Remove computer icon from desktop. Let's prevent this from happening on the student. Double click on it. Here you can just enable the setting, click apply, click OK. So as you can see, it's enabled. Remove computer icon from desktop. That's one. Let's set something again. Remove properties from the computer icon context. This way the user can't manipulate the properties. So we're going to set that as well. So we're going to set two options for practicing purposes. Remove the computer, let's see, computer from the desktop. Let's create something else. Let's remove my document icon from the desktop as well. Click enable, click apply, click OK. Okay, so these are the settings on the student's desktop. Okay, so we can go back. So let's come out of this. Let's click on check something here. Okay, so let's go into teachers. Right click, edit, you can see our policies here. Click on administrative templates. Now we need to go on user configuration. Click on user configuration. Click on policies, administrative tools, and as you can see, we're going to leave the teachers with all the rights. For instance, on their desktop, you can leave the teachers with all the rights so that we can get to my computer on the teachers. We're testing it with the student logo. Let's just double check the student. I want to make sure student user is what is configured. Okay. Let's go on students again, right click, edit. Click on policies, user configuration, policies, administrative tools. Okay, great. As you can see here, we have enabled some policies here. Okay, great. Now we can test. We're going to test the group policies. We're going to be using two clients. I have see here, I have a Windows 7 computer here. So first we need to log in as, let's log in as a student. Student 1 and password. So we are logging in as a student from the client computer. and we're going to test some policies that we set on the 2008 server. It's going to take a little while to prepare a desktop for this new user. Okay, so this is the user. This is the student 1 login. So let's check to see if any of our policy has been applied. Okay, as you can see, we don't have access to my computer because it's actually hidden. It was enabled in group policy, so we can't get to the computer. So that policy has been enabled in it. So what we're going to do, I'm going to take off that properties. I'm going to take off that policy. Let me go back into server. We're going to go back to student. I'm going to right click student, edit, policy, administrative templates, desktop, and I'm going to not configure computer from desktop, and but I'm going to leave remove properties access from the computer. So now let's see if we can see the computer icon. But before what we need to do, we need to log off the Windows client for the change to be effected. So let's log off the client, log back on the client. Okay, we just log back on the client. Let's check here. As you can see the computer icon again. If I right click the computer icon, I have no access to properties because in the policy I enable hide properties of the computer. Okay, so that is the group policy in effect. Now I'm going to show you something, a mandatory screensaver. I'm going to show you how to set a mandatory screensaver on the clients. Before I do that, let me just show you. Let's log on as a teacher, and let me show you the teacher should have access to all these features. Let's log off the student and let's log on as a teacher. I didn't set policies on the teacher because I wanted to show you can actually leave policies or remove policies. Let's log on as a teacher here. Actually, I think I have my name here set as a user, a teacher user. See if I can remember my logo. Okay. Seems like I forgot my logo. Okay, just give me a moment here. Let me check. Okay, we're going to log on as a teacher. This teacher is M. Laban, which is me. I just want to show you the access rights that the group policy set for the teachers, which is I allow the teacher to see my documents, computers, control panel, and they also have access to properties of these icons as well. Okay, let me show you how to set a mandatory profile. On the desktops. Okay, we're going to set what we're going to do, we're going to set a screensaver to appear on the desktop when the user logs on, teacher or student. In order for us to set a mandatory wallpaper, in this case, first we need to get an image that we would like to set mandatory as a desktop wallpaper. What I did is that on the server you need to share a folder with the image on it. Now on my server I have a C and an E drive, so I placed a image, I created a folder called wallpaper, and I placed an image in that folder. So let me show it again. It's not recommended that you share your C drive. I have a partition drive, so I have an E drive. In this E drive I set a folder with a wallpaper image, and it's a JPEG image, remember that as well. And remember the location where you store it, because we will need to use it as a path for the clients to access. Okay, let me show you how I shared it. After placing the folder inside of my E drive, you right click the folder, click on properties, click on sharing, I just will show you how I share it. Now when you go into the sharing folder, there you will see a box like this. Click on the drop down, click on find, what we're going to do is what you're going to add some users, domain users, to the shared folder. Click add now, find now. What we're going to choose is that we're going to choose authenticated users. Click OK, and we're going to also choose and give it readers access. Okay, and click find, advance, find now, and also I'm going to put domain users. Here we have domain users. Click OK. Now we have domain users. Now the reason why I put authenticated users and domain users is because the users that I created are domain users. They are normal domain users. So being a domain user meaning that all that group is a domain group. So anything applied, so any domain user that logs on, either student or teacher, will be in the grouping or the group policies. Click share, and now look carefully at this screen. This is your path. Right on this path, this is your path for your server. Okay, / mail-server name wallpaper folder .jpg. You need to write .jpg after this, jpg. Okay, so remember this part we'll need later. Click done, click closed. So now this folder is shared. This will be your mandatory wallpaper. Now we can close off this. Now let's go back into administrative tools, group policy management, and let's start with the student. Right click, edit, click on user configuration, administrative templates, click on desktop, click on desktop here again. Now as you can see, desktop wallpaper here, double click on desktop wallpaper, enable. Now you see where you have a wallpaper name. This is where you're going to type in the path of the wallpaper. Okay. Remember this, let me see it properly. This is your full path to that wallpaper. You can keep this tile centered. Click apply, click OK. As you can see, it is now enabled. Now we're going to do the same thing for the teacher. Okay. Let's go back. Let's highlight the teacher. Right click, edit. Click on user configuration, administrative templates. Click on desktop, click on desktop wallpaper, enable. Again, put in the path of where the wallpaper is located. Okay, click apply. Okay, great. So now we set two mandatory wallpaper, or the mandatory wallpaper to be displayed when these two users, teacher or student, logs on. So let's go back to client, and let's log off this client. And let's log on. We can log on as a teacher first. Let's see what desktop we're gonna get. So this teacher is Emil Laban, N Laban. Okay, I think I need to check something again on my configuration. Give me a moment here, let me check back a couple items here. Also, we need to set your domain user in your delegation here as well. You can click on your, for instance, and click on teachers, GPO, okay, click on scope, click on add user, and you can search for your domain user here. As you can see, I already added a domain user. Okay, so let's try that client mandatory desktop again. Okay, let's log on. First we can log on as a teacher. As you can see, this is my mandatory desktop that I created in group policies. Let's log off a teacher and let's log on as a student, where I already also set a mandatory desktop wallpaper. Let's log on as a student, student 1, and as you can see, here's your mandatory desktop that I created. Okay, go back to the server. Again, that desktop is pulling from this wallpaper folder here. Make sure you get your path correctly, because I had a little problem. With my path. For instance, you go back into group policies, example, let's check on teacher, for instance, right click teacher, edit, user, policies, administrative templates, desktop, here in my desktop wallpaper. I had a little problem, I didn't put in the path properly, so as a result I got a black screen. So check your path properly and everything should be okay. Okay, great. So I've just shown you how to set up a group policy on a 2008 server. We set up a teacher and a student. We set up group policies on a student. The policies where certain actions cannot be activated on the student side, and you can set up group policies for the teacher as well. I also showed you how to set up a mandatory, in this case a mandatory wallpaper for all domain users. Okay, well, thank you for viewing.